Okay, picture this with me. You're standing at the edge of a Japanese Zen garden. You know the scene. Waves of raked gravel, these little islands of moss-covered rock. It feels ancient, silent, and just deeply peaceful. There's this sense of purpose to it all, but it feels like it's following the beautiful, kind of random logic of nature itself. But what if that randomness isn't random at all? What if there's something else going on entirely?
And that's really the big question we're diving into. For centuries, we've looked at these gardens and just seen this incredible natural beauty. But a totally new perspective is suggesting that underneath that surface, there's a hidden language, almost like a code designed specifically to guide your mind toward a state of contemplation. So, are we looking at a landscape, or are we actually looking at an algorithm for serenity?
Well, it turns out these ancient gardens have been holding on to a secret, right there in plain sight. And it's a secret that's not just about what looks nice, but about a deep, almost mathematical soul that's embedded in their very design. And now, for the first time ever, we have a tool that can actually help us read it.
So, to get to the secret, we first have to appreciate the illusion, right? We see the carefully raked gravel, which is supposed to be water. We see those jagged, powerful stones standing in from mountains or islands. And we see all this asymmetry, the empty space, the ma. That's every bit as important as the objects themselves. The whole thing just feels organic, like a perfect little snapshot of nature. But this is where our human perception pretty much stops.
So, how in the world do you see past the limits of your own eyes? Well, a group of researchers decided to apply a very modern lens to this ancient art form, artificial intelligence. Now, the goal here wasn't to try and replace the artist's intuition or anything like that. The goal was to see if they could finally decode it.
To do this, they used a specific type of AI called a neural network. And what's so cool about this is you can basically think of it as a super-powered pattern detector. It's designed to sift through massive amounts of information, way more than a person could ever process, and find those hidden connections, those subtle little rules that we would totally miss otherwise.
And the process they used was actually brilliantly straightforward. First, the researchers gathered up all the layouts of Zen gardens from monasteries they could find, collecting centuries of spatial data. Then, they fed all this information into the neural network. They were essentially teaching the AI what a Zen garden looks like, but in pure data. And then came the big moment. They asked the AI to show them the patterns it found, and what came back was pretty staggering. Yeah, this is where everything changes. Because the AI didn't just see rocks and sand. It saw a deeply encoded mathematical structure, a whole set of unspoken rules that were guiding the placement of every single element in the garden. It didn't see a landscape, it saw the garden's algorithm.
And this chart just lays out the difference perfectly. You see, where our eyes perceive this beautiful, natural asymmetry, the AI revealed these hidden lines of symmetry connecting everything. Where we see peaceful randomness, the AI uncovered a precise, repeatable geometry. And here's the kicker. That feeling of silent meditation you get is not an accident. It's the result of this hidden spiritual algorithm doing its work.
So what exactly is a spiritual algorithm? It's the whole idea right here. It's this set of geometric rules that, when you follow them, produces a physical space specifically engineered to quiet your mind and encourage contemplation. So you see, the garden isn't just a place for meditation. The garden is the meditation, just encoded in space.
And get this. When the AI visualized these hidden rules, it didn't look like some static blueprint. The source actually described what it saw as a pulsating lattice. I mean, just imagine an invisible energy grid laid over the whole garden, with the rocks and gravel all placed at these key intersecting points. It suggests the garden isn't passive at all, but it's an active, vibrant system designed to interact with how we perceive it.
This whole discovery really brings us to a new way of thinking, something the research calls a symbiotic geometry. You know, it's not about ancient art versus modern technology. It's about how the two can actually work together to reveal something way deeper about both of them.
So why does all this matter? Well, for one, it kind of shows us that these gardens have a real, verifiable mathematical soul. And it proves that technology, which we sometimes think of as cold and sterile, can actually be a key that unlocks these profound new layers of understanding in human art and spirituality. We are literally visualizing a language that, up until now, was only meant to be felt.
Which, of course, leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. The AI can identify the structure that leads to a meditative state, for sure, but can it ever truly comprehend the experience of contemplation itself? I mean, it can read the language, but can it understand the poetry?
But in the end, maybe that's not even the point. For centuries, Zen masters and monks created these spaces using intuition, discipline, and a deep spiritual connection. You could say they were the composers. It just took us this long to build a machine that could finally help us read the sheet music. The garden was always speaking. We just found a new way to listen.